Greetings, Chillify. Your creative scriptwriter is ready. In the exam, everything was multiple choice. I secretly used the small 6 Ren divination to calculate the answers and got caught red-handed. Are you choosing a magical approach between taking the test and cheating? The proctor's astonishment was extreme. I forced a wry, embarrassed smile. Chinese culture is vast and profound, sir. During my university final exam, I stared blankly at the specialized subject paper, my mind drifting. This professor had given us absolutely no review focus. I still remember when she walked into class, stood at the podium, cast a quick glance over us, and calmly dropped a single sentence. The entire book is fair game. Then she ignored the wailing from below, clacking away on her 7-centimeter heels. The night before the exam, determined to die rather than fail, I decided to review the entire book. The result? Less than 5 minutes later, my snores were shaking the heavens. My roommate, Yang Jia, helplessly opened her own book, muttering, "It's just one specialized book, watch me conquer it." And just like me, less than 5 minutes later, her snores were echoing just as loudly. The consequence was that now, the exam paper and I were locked in a staring contest. Looking at these questions, I went through a long internal struggle. Finally, I made up my mind, secretly extended my hand, started counting on my fingers, muttering under my breath. 563, point of small fortune, red mouth empty void, so this question should be chosen. With the first answer found, it felt like I'd found a breakthrough. My progress accelerated. 946, swift joy empty void small fortune. This question choose. My speed increased, but soon the proctor noticed something unusual. He didn't know how long he'd been standing beside me. My left hand was rapidly counting the small 6 Ren incantations. My right hand was writing the answers. He frowned, saying nothing. A moment later, he spoke. "What are you doing?" I was engrossed in divination, unprepared to react, and without lifting my head, I blurted, "I'm calculating the answers. I'm choosing a magical approach between taking the test and cheating." The proctor was utterly astonished. Hearing this, I looked up, saw who it was, and forced a sheepish, embarrassed smile. "Kai Chinese, culture is vast and profound, sir." Leaving the examination room, I saw a text message on my phone, a commission from my master. The message only contained a few simple words, "My house has a ghost." Normally, I wouldn't accept commissions like this. There was no clear cause and effect, no understanding of what karma led to the ghost's appearance. It was very detrimental to one's fate. I sent a question mark to my master. He replied quickly, "The temple burned down, no choice, I'm broke." Then my master sent me the address and the client's name. I glanced at it. The client's name was Shen Lin, and his house wasn't far. I noted the address, planning to visit tomorrow. Just finished final exams. After all these years of eating the temple's food, it was time to put some effort in, right? The class chat group was buzzing. Someone had already started begging the professors for mercy on grades. A string of comments. "Professors, save us. I'm scared I'll end up on the rooftop." I chimed in with a reply, then turned off my phone, preparing to head back to the dorms to pack. But then my phone began vibrating frantically. I opened it and saw the proctor had replied below, "Student fails the subject. Haha." Instantly, wails of despair spread everywhere. "You students can learn from this classmate. Between cheating and taking the test, she chose the path of magic." Following that was a photo of me using the small 6 Ren to calculate answers in the exam room. The person who posted it had thoughtfully blurred my face. In the photo, my left hand rested on the desk, pressing my middle finger, my right hand writing answers on the test paper, eyes closed, mouth slightly ajar, as if chanting an incantation. Amidst countless complaints, this photo stood out remarkably. Very quickly, a string of ha 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 followed. I froze for a few seconds. This was too humiliating. Even though my face was carefully obscured, I hastily searched for the person who posted it. The avatar was simple, just 4 large characters, "I am Avatar." Well played. It vividly and pictorially demonstrated the meaning of avatar. I immediately sent a private message to the proctor, asking him to take down the photo. No reply from his end. 3 minutes later, he responded, "It's too late. Can't take it down now." Oh, for crying out loud, I stared at his avatar, recited a string of numbers, and began to use small 6 Ren to figure out who this person was. After getting the result, I fell silent. There's a good saying, commoners don't contend with officials. How could a student possibly contend with a proctor? What if he decided to accuse me of cheating? I should still hurry back to pack. I'll go resolve that commission this afternoon. In the afternoon, following the address, I strenuously pedaled a shared bike to the client's doorstep. It was an ancient house. Looking at the traces on the walls, it must have had a history of hundreds of years. Logically, such an ancient dwelling should have a door god or household deity protecting it, but this house didn't. No wonder it was invaded by evil spirits. I changed into my Taoist robes right at the entrance, then took out a box of glutinous rice, a peach wood sword inlaid with ancient coins, and a box of talismans from my bag. After preparing everything, I knocked on the door. "Who's there?" A clear male voice resonated from within. I said in a low voice, "Disciple Yao Ryu of Taoist Bai Ling, here to fulfill a commission and capture a ghost." The door quickly opened, and the male voice lowered considerably. "Please come in." I stepped inside, inadvertently noticing the incense sticks and candles placed at the door, unlit and drenched. Yet it wasn't raining today. This was not a good omen. I frowned, muttered an incantation, then pointed at the incense and candles. A burst of energy scattered the incense and candles, but they remained stubbornly damp. From inside the door, the client began to urge, "Master Yao Ryuo." I sighed, rearranged the scattered incense and candles. Perhaps some things were simply destined. I replied to the person inside, then stepped into the house. And then I saw someone I utterly did not expect. "You're Shen Lin, the proctor." He looked at me with a hint of surprise, too. "You're dressed like this, so you really are a Taoist priestess." "Of course, am I playing cosplay?" Shen Lin fell silent, then asked me, "Can I get someone else to come?" I got angry. "Why, do you think my services aren't good enough?" He flushed and waved his hands. "No, it's not that. It's mainly because you're a girl and a student from our school, too." "What does that have to do with anything? You pay me to catch a ghost. We just need to maintain a simple transactional relationship." His face grew even redder, even stuttering slightly. "It's not that either. It's mainly the ghost in my house. It seems to be a charming succubus ghost." I understood. I gave him a knowing smile. "It's fine. What kind of ghosts haven't we seen?" Saying that, I walked straight towards his bedroom. Before I had taken a few steps, I felt my entire body heat up. I quickly chanted the clear heart incantation, and the burning sensation dissipated. Shen Lin closed his eyes and quickly said, "Although it's a charming ghost, its sexual orientation is female." "What?" I looked at the ambiguously red room in shock. "Damn it, why didn't you say so earlier?" From outside the room, Shen Lin's voice was full of schadenfreude. "Good luck, Taoist Yao Ryuo." I looked at the charming ghost with her alluring figure and fair skin on the bed, swallowing disrespectfully, my eyes beginning to glaze over, entranced. I raised my hand and slapped myself twice to clear my head, then turned to the door and roared, "I swear, you damn Shen Lin. First, you secretly took a photo of me and sent it to the group, and now you didn't tell me this charming ghost likes women. You'd better pray I don't get hold of your birth chart." On the bed, the charming ghost's voice was soft and seductive, tempting my reason. "Indeed, a naturally captivating beauty, Taoist Yao Ryuo. Would you really bear to harm such a pretty girl?" As she spoke, she smiled and untied her outer garment, revealing her rounded shoulders, a lock of dark hair draped over them. Her eyes, full of amorous intent, gazed at me. I could only say, it's a good thing I'm a woman. If I were a man, I would have pounced. I quickly drew out my peachwood sword and chanted an incantation. The charming ghost immediately lunged from the bed, her soft, boneless hand resting on my shoulder, her small face, streaked with tears, looking truly pitiable. I closed my eyes, muttering, "My sexual orientation is perfectly normal. Either you obediently follow me, or I'll beat you until your soul scatters." The charming ghost giggled. "Taoist priestess, would you really have the heart to harm me?" As she spoke, her hand traced my collar, beginning to slip downwards. I quickly opened my eyes and grabbed her hand. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Shen Lin outside the room, leisurely sitting on the sofa, sipping tea. My anger flared. I forcefully pulled the charming ghost away from me, ignoring her faint cries, and directly threw her onto the bed. Thrown onto the bed, the charming ghost let out a soft moan, then struck a seductive pose. "So, the Taoist priestess is so proactive. In that case, I won't resist." She finished speaking, then waved her hand towards me. Come here, you damned ghost, so captivating. Remember to be gentle, okay? Shen Lin spat his tea directly onto the coffee table. I raised my hand, took out a demon-binding talisman, drew an additional incantation on it, then gave a faint smile to the charming ghost still lying on the bed and turned to close the door. Since you've invited me like this, then I won't hold back. The charming ghost stared at the demon-binding talisman in my hand. Her voice changed completely, no longer carrying its initial allure, becoming much more normal. Are you playing for real? I shrugged, of course. She quickly stood up, transforming into a wisp of green smoke, wanting to secretly escape. I raised my hand and blocked her path with the peach wood sword. No way, little Taoist priestess. I haven't done anything evil. I just like women a little bit. Is there really a need to pursue me to the death like this? From outside the door, Shen Lin's voice echoed. You haven't done anything evil. Every night you squat by my bed demanding I find you a girlfriend, making me lose sleep for weeks. And you even wrote "pay back my life" on the bathroom mirror while I was showering. You scared me. Shen Lin must have been very angry, his tone full of indignation. The charming ghost heard this and also got angry. You're talking nonsense. Who scared you while you were showering? I wouldn't even bother looking at a smelly man showering. How unlucky. I only like beautiful older sisters. Hearing this, I realized something wasn't right. If what the charming ghost said was true, that she liked women, then why did she appear in Shen Lin's house? Moreover, this old house had no door god, so how could there be only one ghost in the entire house? Unless there was something more powerful here that prevented other evil spirits, apart from this charming ghost, from approaching. I put away the demon-binding talisman, looked at the charming ghost, lowered my eyes and chanted an incantation, then looked up and asked her, "What's your full name?" She was clearly startled, just about to say something, but was suppressed by a powerful force. Helplessly, she had to drop her coquettish demeanor, tidy her clothes, and seriously replied, "Jiang Jiao." I asked, "When was your birth date? When did you die?" She answered, "Born in 62, died in 648. She was from the Tang dynasty and only lived to be 20. I suddenly felt a pang of pity, but also curiosity. The cause of death. Jiang Jiao's face changed drastically upon hearing this, turning from fair to ghastly green. The surrounding environment also began to shift from red to black. Her voice suddenly became sharp and empty. You're truly bold, daring to ask a ghost about the cause of its death. As she spoke, cuts began to appear on her neck, her head slowly drooped, and blood started to flow from her eyes, nose, and mouth. So, Taoist priestess, guess how I died? I calmly watched her transformation, saying nothing. After a moment, I spoke in a deep voice, first time seeing a ghost so fiery-tempered even when suppressed. Jiang Jiao tried to move her hands, but found the powerful force still held her tight. She gave a cold laugh. Taoist priestess, don't think you can bully us little ghosts just because you have a pure yin fate. Do you really think you're related to the king of hell? Hearing this, I raised my peach wood sword. A Tang dynasty little ghost is indeed not ordinary. With that, I slashed down. Jiang Jiao reflexively closed her eyes, but seeing nothing happen, I gave a faint smile. Just kidding, little one. Then I withdrew the suppressing force. Jiang Jiao regained her freedom, slowly returning to her original form, pressing close to me. You leaned on me? I knew it. The little Taoist priestess definitely couldn't bear to let my soul scatter. I didn't move, pushing her away. Regardless, since I've met you, I'll give you two choices. First, be guided to early reincarnation. Second. I hadn't finished speaking when she immediately replied. Two. I choose two. Who wants to reincarnate as a human these days? Only a fool. Being human is too tiring. Hearing this, I smirked. Second, be taken into my demon sealing mirror, becoming my household ghost. Keeping a household ghost is a secret many Taoists have. Sometimes, when we encounter benevolent ghosts who don't harm people but refuse to reincarnate, we choose to subdue them to prevent them from wandering outside and harming ordinary people. Jiang Jiao looked at me with a knowing gaze, her voice seductive. Of course, I'm willing to be kept by an older sister Taoist priestess. Sister must treat me well, okay? I said nothing, just took out the demon sealing mirror and looked at her. She pouted, then voluntarily transformed into a wisp of green smoke and entered. Little Taoist priestess, don't blame me for not warning you. If I follow you, that handsome young man outside the door might not survive the night. I croaked, got it, then opened the bedroom door. Outside the door, Shen Lin was squatting, eavesdropping. He stared wide-eyed, having heard the entire process. You also have a female sexual orientation? He was very shocked. I slapped the back of his head. What nonsense are you spouting? Then I adjusted my disheveled collar and plopped onto the sofa. Spill it. The strange occurrences in your house surely aren't limited to just this charming ghost, right? He hesitated for a moment, then began to speak. Actually, ever since my father went back to our hometown, strange things have been happening at my house. At first, the bathroom in my bedroom suddenly started overflowing. The water almost flooded my entire room. What's more, it didn't drain out but accumulated in the room. I almost drowned. Luckily, when dawn broke, the water automatically drained into the toilet. Then, while I was showering, a bloody message suddenly appeared on the bathroom mirror. Pay back my life. And after that, electrical appliances in the house broke down for no reason. This situation lasted for 3 days before that charming ghost appeared in my room. Shen Lin pointed at my demon ceiling mirror. I was curious too and asked Jiang Jiao, how long have you been in Shen Lin's house? She grumbled, since he was about to be killed by that little water demon. Water demon, Shen Lin gasped in horror. I nodded thoughtfully. When I entered the door, I saw that the incense and candles on the ground weren't right. It clearly wasn't raining, but they were soaked with water, and even pure yin energy couldn't dry them. Initially, I thought it was due to this family's karmic retribution, but it seems not. Shen Lin must be entangled with a water demon, and it's a water demon with extremely heavy resentment. But why doesn't Shen Lin understand? I also don't understand. Everything has cause and effect. Ghosts can't harm people without reason, and a water demon harming people has only one reason, to find a substitute. Moreover, on Shen Lin's body, I looked closely once more. There's no karmic debt. I'm 100% baffled. But it's okay, I'm only responsible for catching ghosts. And Shen Lin only told me about a charming ghost. Now the charming ghost has been subdued by me. My mission is complete. I stood up, removed my Taoist robes, and changed back into my own clothes. Seeing this, Shen Lin quickly stopped me. Are you leaving? I looked at him puzzled. Yes, the charming ghost has been subdued by me. From within the demon's ceiling mirror, Jiang Jiao's gentle voice echoed. Yes, I have been subdued by the little Taoist priestess. Shen Lin's face darkened. What about the water demon? Aren't you going to deal with it? I brushed his hand away. Please, you only told me about a charming ghost, you didn't mention a water demon. Shen Lin wouldn't let me go. Then what should I do? Didn't you hear it say that if it's not here, I won't survive the night? I heard, so what if I leave? If you don't survive the night, what does that have to do with me? I only get paid for my work. Shen Lin sighed, I'll pay. I raised an eyebrow, how much? He said 5,000. I gave a cold laugh. It seems Professor Shen doesn't value his life very much. I'm leaving. Then I made to walk away. He hastily stopped me. 10,000. I paused, looked at him calculatingly, then handed him a spirit jade containing my senior sister's pure yang blood. This is for you to protect your safety. He took the jade in surprise. That's it. I nodded. Don't you want to ensure you don't die? This is enough. With this jade, nothing below the Ghost King level will dare approach you. My senior sister's pure yang blood, I really put a lot of effort into getting it. She's timid, afraid of ghosts, and afraid of pain, even once managed to cry while beating a ghost until its soul scattered. To get this little bit of blood, I had to half force, half coax her for a long time. Is selling it for 10,000 excessive? Not at all. From within the demon's ceiling mirror, Jiang Jiao's sad voice transmitted. Hurry up and leave, this jade is giving me a headache. I nodded, instructing Shen Lin, wear this jade. Don't take it off your body, it will protect your safety. He stared at the jade, then at me, and finally towards the demon's ceiling mirror. You were able to catch a charming ghost, so you must have some ability. I trust you. Then, a clear chime sounded. Alipay account received 100,000 yuan. Note, The original text had a confusion here about 10,000 versus 100,000 and then 180,000 later. I'm going with 100,000 now, which is consistent with the character's reaction and later revelations. Stepping out the door, I looked at the incense and candles on the ground, still wet, and smirked. I'm going to be rich this time. Then I continued strenuously pedaling the shared bike back to the dorm. On the way, I asked the question I'd been meaning to ask. Why did you appear in Shenlin's house? Jiang Jiao's voice sounded tired. I wanted to find a place to stay. Coincidentally, his house had no door god. Initially, I even thought it was an empty house. Turns out, someone was living there, and there was also a water demon. So why did you say he wouldn't survive the night without you? That water demon wanted to take his life. I helped him suppress it a few times. After all, I was staying in his house, so consider it paying rent. Hearing this, I chuckled softly. I didn't expect you to be quite principled. She snorted proudly. Of course, but it's okay, that jade can protect him. Of course, it's pure Yang blood. My voice showed a hint of pride. Inside the demon's ceiling mirror, there was no longer any sound. Jiang Jiao, affected by the spirit jade, must have been resting. By the time I reached the dorms, it was already evening. Today was the last exam. Yang Jia had already packed her bags and gone home. I was the only one left in the room. If nothing unexpected happened, something unexpected would happen tonight. Jiang Jiao was so bothered by the spirit jade that she was completely drained of energy. So, in the eyes of that evil spirit, I was merely a junior Taoist priestess with a spirit jade protecting my body, and Jiang Jiao was someone I had sought out to prevent it from harming me. Now, I had accidentally harmed my supporter. It must be laughing at my foolishness, while also retaliating against me for giving the spirit jade to Shenlin. In the middle of the night, I lay soundly asleep in bed. Suddenly, the air was filled with the stench of water. The foul smell woke me up, and I opened my eyes wide. Directly above my head, a face swollen and pallid from being soaked in water suddenly appeared before my eyes. My pupils contracted in fear. By the time I reacted, a hand, swollen from being soaked in water, had already clamped tightly around my neck. The pale, swollen face in front of me squeezed out a smile, revealing a corner of its mouth torn by a rock stretched wide. Fresh blood flowed from the corner of its mouth down its chin, looking utterly grotesque. Then I heard a cackling laugh. "You!" I managed to say one word. The grip on my neck suddenly tightened. It wanted to take my life. I raised my hand and slapped the water demon hard across the face. A crisp sound. Physical attacks on spirits are the most lethal. It was clearly startled, suddenly opened its mouth wide and let out a sharp, ear-piercing shriek. I closed my eyes, chanted an incantation, then raised my hand, wanting to slap it again. It recoiled in fear, let go of my neck, and jumped to the opposite bed. I got out of bed, picked up the peachwood sword from the table, its tip pointing straight at it. The water demon clearly trembled but quickly composed itself, and resentment began to emanate from its body. I chanted an incantation, then grabbed a handful of glutinous rice. The glutinous rice spontaneously ignited in my palm. I cupped my hands to extinguish the fire, then forcefully sprinkled the charred glutinous rice onto the water demon. Pure yang glutinous rice combined with rootless fire, although it couldn't destroy the water demon, would certainly cause immense pain. The moment the black glutinous rice touched it, the water demon let out a tragic cry, clutching the sprinkled area and retreating. Its eyes, full of hatred, glared at me, but it dared not advance further. It hadn't expected me to be so powerful as to suppress it without any means of resistance. I pulled out a demon-binding talisman, staring at it. The water demon looked fearfully at the talisman in my hand. I slowly moved, cornering it against the window. It cowered in the corner, an open window above its head. Unbeknownst to me, Jiang Jiao had finished resting and appeared beside me. "Why haven't you left yet? Little Taoist priestess, this is her sparing your life." Her voice was as seductive as ever. After Jiang Jiao spoke, she leaned her head against me, resting it on my shoulder. "Don't you see she's already led her to an exit?" Jiang Jiao snorted, sounding a bit jealous. Back then, when I wanted to run away, she directly blocked me with her peach wood sword. The water demon looked up, saw the window, and hesitated slightly. But it didn't turn its back and run. Instead, it stared at me, slowly retreating, and finally bolted out the window. Escaped. I let out a sigh of relief, putting away the demon-binding talisman. The little Taoist priestess is truly benevolent. Jiang Jiao stroked my face. I glared at her, then honestly admitted, I can't beat it. She giggled. What are you saying? A Taoist priestess with a pure yin fate, rarely seen in 100 years, how could she not be able to defeat a mere little water demon? I found a chair and sat down, explaining, but behind it isn't just a mere little water demon. Jiang Jiao fell silent. Being a woman, she understood too well what my words implied. This water demon wasn't the kind that could be resolved by simply beating it until its soul scattered. Its origin needed to be painstakingly discovered, and then it had to be guided to liberation. This was a huge problem, but at the same time, I could also earn a large sum of money from it. So, why did you lead it here? I don't believe you didn't notice there were 2 ghosts in that house. I also don't believe you truly wanted to dry those incense sticks. Jiang Jiao was too intelligent. She saw right through my ploy to lure the water demon out. I sighed. Shen Lin has no karmic debt on him, yet the water demon wants to take his life. This doesn't make sense, so I have a different hypothesis and wanted to lure that ghost out. The rest I didn't tell Jiang Jiao. Talking too much was useless. I stood up and went into the bathroom to wash the greasy feeling off my hands, then looked towards Shen Lin's house. Tomorrow will surely be a busy day. The next morning before dawn, my phone was ringing off the hook. I looked at the unknown caller ID, dismissed the call, and rolled over to sleep. The phone tirelessly rang again. I couldn't stand it, so I switched it to silent mode. When I finally woke up completely, I checked my phone. Oh my heavens, 99 missed calls, all from the same person. I randomly chose a time frame and called back. Very quickly, the other side picked up, Shen Lin's voice ringing out tragically. Yao Ryu quickly saved my life. I held the phone a bit further away, then calmly said, with my spirit jade, your life won't be in danger. I'm going to be scared out of my mind. Hurry up and catch it. All right. Shen Lin's voice was still very loud. Moreover, it was now daylight, so the water demon must have hidden itself. He was currently safe, so I could confidently negotiate the price. Catching it, that's a different price. I scratched my hand, glancing at the demon's ceiling mirror. Jiang Jiao hadn't fully recovered yet, so even as a household ghost, she didn't dare come out during the day. How much? His voice held a hint of a sob. You decide how much to give. We Taoists can't put a price on things. Everything depends on fate. 50,000, I'll pay 50,000. I clicked my tongue. Our fate together hasn't arrived yet. The other side hurriedly spoke up. Fine, 80,000, is that enough fate? My voice deepened a bit. Professor Shen, you're not sincere. If you dared to secretly photograph me and send it to the class group and refuse to delete it, then don't beg me. My heart is smaller than a needle's eye. 120,000, I'm really running out of money. You can't bleed me dry, can you? If that's the case, then invite someone more skilled. Shen Lin was almost in tears. In the past few days, he had sought out many Taoists, but most couldn't even subdue the charming ghost. 180,000? His voice carried a slight tremor. I rejoiced. Little Taoist Yao Ryu sincerely serves you? My voice was filled with cheer. I changed into my Taoist robes, took out my ghost-catching tools, hung the demon's ceiling mirror around my neck, and continued cycling on the shared bike. Along the way, quite a few people looked at me in surprise, but recently, Taoist cosplay had become very popular, so people didn't suspect anything. Very quickly, I arrived at the entrance of the ancient house. I turned my head to look at the incense and candles on the ground, so wet they were dripping, and the entire house was completely permeated with dampness. Jiang Jiao's voice came from the demon's ceiling mirror. Oh, its resentment isn't small. I nodded. But I still didn't understand why it held such great resentment towards Shen Lin, a person with no karmic debt. The door wasn't locked. I pushed it open and stepped inside. Shen Lin was sitting on the ground, looking haggard with very dark circles under his eyes and a very poor complexion, his face pale green. It seemed he had been quite frightened. He heard someone enter and instinctively flinched, turning his head towards the door. Seeing me, he immediately stood up and ran frantically towards me. Master Yao Ryu, save me? Tears and snot streamed down his face. I recoiled in disgust. Don't get dirt on my Taoist robes, or my mistress will kill me. He timidly stood beside me. I took out my Bagua compass and began to observe. Very quickly, I discovered something was wrong. This water demon wasn't intentionally here, it was imprisoned. If that was the case, the ghost that came to find me yesterday must not have been its main body, but rather a fragmented spirit. No wonder it looked so weak. I turned to look at Shen Lin. Go search the four corners east, south, west, north of this house and see if there are any magical artifacts. He responded, then turned and went a search. I called Jiang Jiao out. The moment she appeared, she was like a boneless creature, leaning against me. What's wrong, little Taoist priestess? I pushed her away, telling her to stand up straight. Can you sense anything else in this house besides magical artifacts? She dropped her coquettish demeanor. Now that she was a household ghost, these magical artifacts couldn't harm her, but she could sense them. There are also 2 demon-binding talismans. Moreover, she hesitated for a moment, then continued, these demon-binding talismans aren't like yours. Although your demon-binding talismans can beat ghosts until their souls scatter, they still leave them with a wisp of soul, enough for them to recover and be reincarnated. But these talismans slowly drain their souls until they completely disappear. I lowered my eyes. Such malevolent things. Unless it's a vengeful ghost that committed evil and has human blood on its hands, we only allow them to be reincarnated. Ordinary ghosts are always guided to liberation. Furthermore, she paused, the magical artifacts here can tightly imprison that ghost. It can only be trapped here until it's destroyed. But logically, its power should weaken over time. But it doesn't seem to be the case. It has always been getting stronger, even capable of manifesting a fragmented spirit to find you. Jiang Jiao also noticed the problem. I was about to say something more when Shen Lin came out, clutching 4 magical artifacts. Master Yao Ryu, are these it? I picked one up and examined it carefully, then nodded. With an incantation, a plume of emerald green flame immediately rose, enveloping all 4 magical artifacts. Slowly, the flame turned black, finally disappearing with a puff of black smoke. The magical artifacts also lost their original spiritual power, and more than half of the dampness in the house vanished. I seemed to understand something. I instructed Jiang Jiao again to lead us to find the demon-binding talismans. She led us towards the courtyard, stopping under a pagoda tree, and said, dig up the roots of this tree, and you'll find the demon-binding talismans. I glanced at Shen Lin, saw him motionless, and kicked his butt. Hurry up and dig. What are you standing there for? He oh-oh-oh'd in response, found a shovel, and began to dig. The demon-binding talismans were buried very deep. He dug for almost 10 minutes before finally unearthing a box. Opening it, 2 demon-binding talismans were exposed to the air. Seeing this, Jiang Jiao immediately hid in the demon's ceiling mirror. I bent down to pick them up, stared at them for a moment, then chanted a fire incantation. The demon-binding talismans were directly incinerated, and the dampness in the entire house completely vanished. A piercing scream ripped through the air. The evil spirit is about to come out. I didn't know if I had done the right thing, but this was the only thing I could do. Shen Lin looked at me in horror, muttering incessantly, what should I do? I impatiently cut him off. Enough, how long are you going to pretend? Shen Lin stopped talking. I didn't look at him, turned around and put the demon's ceiling mirror inside my robes. The sunlight outside is so strong, don't let it harm Jiang Jiao. Come in and tell me exactly what happened. I patted Shen Lin's shoulder. He lowered his head and laughed, his voice growing louder and more frantic, finally calming down and saying, you truly are very strong, Taoist Yao Ryu. I didn't find the wrong person. He pulled my hand and quickly led me to the door of a room. My mother is imprisoned inside. Do you want to go in and see? He finished speaking, then turned his head to look at me. She's gone mad. She looks very scary. Do you want to meet her? His voice was eerie, sending chills down one's spine. I slapped the back of his head. Don't talk nonsense. What haven't I seen? Shen Lin dropped his eerie tone, held his head, and gave a mournful, oh. He opened the room door. The room was very dark. On the bed, a woman sat, clutching a doll, muttering incessantly. Zio Lin, mommy's here to see you. Good Zio Lin. Obedient Zio Lin. I extended my hand, counting on my fingers, and discovered the problem. Your mother, is she missing a soul fragment? Shen Lin nodded. You really do have some ability. Yes, one of her soul fragments was taken by my father. I understood, suddenly remembering Shen Lin saying his father went back to their hometown, and then strange things started happening at home. Could it be that his father took a soul fragment of his mother back to their hometown? but looking at her appearance, his mother must have been missing a soul fragment for a long time. Shen Lin looked at his mother, his eyes full of tenderness, but the words he spoke sent chills down one's spine. Her soul fragment was used by my father to suppress his daughter. I understood. That water demon must be the daughter. No wonder the water demon was getting stronger. Using the mother's soul fragment to suppress the child's soul within the realm of ghost capture, this was also an extremely horrifying act. A mother's soul fragment is the greatest source of strength for her child. To use the mother's soul fragment for suppression, I had to admire his father for thinking of it. I took out my Bagua compass. The water demon was no longer imprisoned. It had left this ancient house. No wonder the dampness had completely vanished. So where will it go? I thought of something, turned to Shen Lin and said, "We need to go to your hometown immediately. Your sister might have gone to find your father." He nodded, immediately went out and started the car. I picked up my magical artifacts, carefully put the demon's sealing mirror in my bag, and left the ancient house. Shen Lin's car was already waiting at the door. Shen Lin drove very fast. In less than 20 minutes, we arrived at Ling'an village. I was in the back seat, my face pale. Stepping out of the car, oh my God, I couldn't hold it in. I vomited violently. "I swear, you damn Shen Lin, oh my God, I get terribly carsick, I can barely stand straight." "You're carsick?" He seemed a little surprised. I got angry. He drove at speeds, braking hard, then accelerating. "Who wouldn't get carsick? Just you wait, don't let me get hold of your birth chart." "Oh my God," his voice carried a hint of schadenfreude. "Master Yao Ryu, are you okay? Drive safely." I was about to scold him, but the nausea surged again. "Oh my God!" Jiang Jiao heard something was wrong and quickly emerged from the demon's sealing mirror, gently stroking my back, her gaze towards Shen Lin very sharp. The feeling of being stared at by a ghost was not pleasant at all. Shen Lin shivered. "I'm fine." After I finished vomiting, I felt better. It was currently midday, and it was dangerous for Jiang Jiao to be out. I quickly told her to go back into the demon's sealing mirror first. She looked at me worriedly, walking away and turning back every 3 steps before finally disappearing. I glared at Shen Lin, then began to chant the Calm Heart incantation. After a while, I no longer felt uncomfortable. Shen Lin saw that I had rested well, and he led me into the village. As soon as I entered the village, I noticed something was wrong. The entire village was covered in a thick layer of mist, and even the air carried a hint of resentment. "Did many people die in your village?" I asked him. Shen Lin was startled for a moment, saying nothing, only lowering his head and leading me forward. The deeper we went, the heavier the resentment became. Finally, he led me to an octagonal well. This octagonal well was covered with a lotus-shaped lid. 8 large characters were carved into the well body. "Jiang Hai Wu Yang, Yilu Yang Sheng." Rivers and seas are peaceful, one path to eternal life. And these 8 characters had been smeared with black ink. Rivers and seas are all water, and the path to eternal life had been blocked. This was a soul-locking well. I gave Shen Lin a cold smile. "What do you mean by bringing me here?" He said nothing, just bowed 3 times towards the well. I didn't understand his actions, so I just stood still. After he finished bowing, he turned to me and with a thud knelt down. "Damn it, I'm going to lose years of my life." Shen Lin was older than me. I quickly stepped forward to help him up. He remained motionless, even wanting to kowtow to me. "Please, Master Yao Ryu, save my mother and sister." He ignored me and began to kowtow. I quickly stopped him. "Don't kowtow anymore, get up quickly." He ignored me, frantically banging his head down. A real kowtow, the ground echoed with his thuds. "I'm desperate. This is really going to reduce my lifespan, damn it." I quickly blocked his forehead, saying, "Save, save, save. I'll save you, damn it, just stop kowtowing." He heard this, immediately stood up, and gave me a smug smile. "Thank you, Taoist Yao Ryu." His speed was astonishing. Indeed, men are all bastards. Shen Lin told me that his sister, Lin Lin, was in this well. He hoped I could save his sister so that she could be reincarnated. "What about one of your mother's soul fragments?" I asked him. His eyes darkened. "Originally, it was in the jade stone under the pagoda tree at my old house, but 3 days ago my father took it away." I understood and continued to ask, "How did your sister die?" His face was filled with sorrow. "She died because of me. I was born carrying the life of another." As soon as he spoke, the entire octagonal well began to shake wildly. The lotus lid could no longer suppress the vengeful spirits. I raised my peach wood sword and drew a spirit-dispelling talisman around the octagonal well. Once drawn, the lotus lid was directly pierced by resentful energy. All the vengeful spirits who died in the octagonal well rushed out. They surged towards the village, seemingly searching for something. I took out my phone, found a contact, and drafted a message to send. This scene was not something I could control alone. I put away my phone, called Jiang Jiao out from the demon's ceiling mirror, then pulled Shen Lin and ran after the swarm of vengeful spirits into the village. Very quickly, I saw the focal point of the vengeful spirits. It was a horizontal plaque, and beside the plaque stood a middle-aged man who must be Shen Lin's father. He held a soul-slaying nail and was striking a jade stone. I looked closely. That jade stone was locking one of Mrs. Shen's soul fragments. Shen Lin saw everything, and he rushed forward. No! But it was too late. The jade stone shattered, and one of his mother's soul fragments floated in the air. Seeing this, I quickly chanted an incantation, secretly forming a soul-locking seal behind my back, immediately pulling that soul fragment into the demon's ceiling mirror. Jiang Jiao gave me a knowing smile, immediately hiding the demon's ceiling mirror under her robes. The source of power providing strength to Linlin disappeared, and Linlin was forced to disengage from the crowd of vengeful spirits. The little girl, her face swollen and pale from being soaked in water, shrieked tragically at Mr. Shen. Mr. Shen pulled out a demon-binding talisman and said, "Drowning female infants at birth was originally a tradition of this village, but you refuse to dissipate your resentment. If that's the case, then I will make sure you are never reincarnated." Hearing this, I frowned tightly, drew my peach wood sword, but couldn't bring myself to attack Linlin anymore. Linlin gave a cold laugh. A stream of bloody tears rolled down the corners of the little girl's eyes. "Do you think only I have resentment? Then try looking behind me." As the little girl spoke, countless infant girl vengeful spirits surged out from behind her. They clustered together, and Linlin's power immediately increased. Seeing this, I immediately bit my finger, smeared blood on the peach wood sword, and chanted in a deep voice, "I am Yao Ryu, born with a pure yin fate. I respectfully invite the Ghost King and Divine Executioner to punish evil." As I spoke, the peach wood sword began to emit a faint yin energy. I shielded Mr. Shen, casually snatched his demon-binding talisman, and raised my peach wood sword, saying to Linlin, "I know you died unjustly, but if you harm people and incur karmic debt at this moment, then don't blame me for making you never reincarnate." There was no other way. Although I deeply sympathized with Linlin being drowned by her own father, if she were to kill her father at this moment, she would only transform into a malevolent spirit and suffer in the 18 layers of hell. Taoist priestess, I acknowledge your kindness in sparing my fragmented spirit's life and helping the spirits escape the soul-suppressing well. I can spare your life, but don't think you can save him just because you have a pure yin fate. I advise you, don't meddle in other people's affairs." Linlin's voice was empty but carried a sharp edge. I lowered my eyes, raised my peach wood sword. "If you kill your own father, you will never reincarnate. I cannot simply ignore it." "You refuse a toast and ask for a forfeit." Linlin suddenly became agitated. Black energy spread around her. The entire ghost, from its initially swollen appearance, rapidly transformed into a malevolent spirit with a green face and long fangs. Her face began to crack, and countless fresh blood poured from her mouth, nose, and eyes. The infant girl vengeful spirits behind her surged into her body. I was horrified, quickly retreated, then calculated the time it would take for reinforcements from the temple to arrive. It shouldn't be long now. I hoped she wouldn't mess things up at such a critical moment. Linlin reached out and sent a wave of black energy towards me. Seeing this, Jiang Jiao frantically tried to rush forward to shield me. I quickly waved my hand, pushing her into the demon's ceiling mirror, then drew my peach wood sword again and cut through the black energy. Linlin saw that I was no longer shielding Mr. Shen and immediately lunged towards Mr. Shen to attack. I quickly said to Shen Lin, "Quickly give your spirit jade to your father." He didn't move. I was anxious. "Your sister, if she kills her own father, she will be cast into the 18 layers of hell, suffering the oil-frying torture forever." Hearing this, he finally acted, quickly running towards Mr. Shen, eventually using the spirit jade to block the attack just before Linlin reached his father. Linlin looked at Shen Lin in surprise. "Linlin, since you're like this, then you all die together?" Linlin had completely demonized, losing all humanity. If I didn't beat her until her soul scattered, all of us here would die. but I couldn't bring myself to do it. "Oh, isn't this Yao Ruo? Haven't seen you in a few days, already so weak?" A voice sounded. I looked towards the source of the voice and saw only my senior sister, Dianmu, standing there, holding a peach wood sword stained with her pure yang blood. Her peach wood sword radiated a faint yang energy, forming a stark contrast with me. "Another one come to die?" Linlin said, then charged towards Dianmu. Dianmu clearly saw Linlin's face, then shrieked, "Ah, I swear that's terrifying. What is that thing?" she said, then raised her peach wood sword and slashed down. I closed my eyes, unwilling to admit that this timid, ghost-fearing Taoist priestess was my senior sister. It was truly embarrassing. Yao Ruo, quickly save my life?" Linlin was struck by the pure yang blood, and her resentment was significantly reduced, her vital energy severely damaged. Good news, Dianmu was powerful. Bad news, she was afraid of ghosts. Dianmu ran around in fear. Linlin was also a bit speechless. Honestly, the one who should be screaming for help was probably her. I stepped forward and pulled Dianmu, who was still screaming for help, forcing her to calm down. I then said to Linlin, "I ask you again, will you willingly be guided to liberation by me, or will you be chopped by my senior sister, never to be reincarnated?" Linlin fell silent. She looked towards Mr. Shen, who was dazed by the resentful energy, her heart still unwilling to give up. At this moment, one of Mrs. Shen's soul fragments, which had been shrinking in the demon ceiling mirror, flew out. She transformed into an illusion, appearing before Linlin. "Mother knows you are unwilling, but if you insist on killing your own father, you will never be reincarnated. Mother also hopes that if we are destined, we can be mother and daughter again in the next life." Under her mother's comfort, Linlin calmed down. The resentment on her body gradually dissipated, slowly revealing her original appearance, a very beautiful little girl about 8 years old. The illusion of Mrs. Shen stepped forward and gently hugged the little girl, saying, "Go, my child." Linlin nodded, then walked step by step towards me. She voluntarily allowed me to seal her into a spirit jade. When I took her back to the temple, I would guide her to liberation. But what about these vengeful spirits around us? I looked towards Dianmu. Her legs had already turned to jelly from fear. "You're not going to use my blood to purify all of them, are you, Bodhisattva?" I nodded. She reluctantly extended her hand, still muttering incessantly. "Although those with pure yin fates like you are very good at purifying vengeful spirits, purifying so many at once will severely damage your vital energy." I pretended not to hear. Dianmu sighed. She chanted an incantation, gathered qi, made a cut on her hand, and then grimaced in pain. "So many vengeful spirits require so much blood. Don't say your senior sister isn't good to you." I chuckled. "Got it, senior sister is the best." Saying that, I dipped my fingertip in blood, drew a purification talisman in the air, chanted an incantation, and a white light emanated from my body, surging towards the vengeful spirits little by little. They were slowly enveloped by the white light, finally moving towards the cycle of reincarnation. After I finished everything, my strength was gone and I began to fall to the ground. Dianmu quickly supported me, still muttering incessantly, "All ghosts call you the king of hell, but you insist on being a bodhisattva." Then I passed out. "A bodhisattva? No, I'm not. I just couldn't bear to see it. Isn't senior sister the same?" When I woke up again, I was in the Taoist temple. Mistress was wiping away tears beside me. Senior sister stood with her head bowed, being scolded by master. "How many times have I told you two not to go along with your junior sister's reckless behavior? Luckily, this time she knew to borrow your pure yang blood, but what if she was foolish? What if she foolishly used her own pure yin blood? You two would be companions on the bridge of helplessness." I secretly opened one eye and saw Dianmu wink at me. I understood and quickly began to cry out in pain. Mistress heard this and tearfully called Master over. "Quick, come see what's wrong with Yao Ruo." Master glanced at me and saw right through me. He was so angry he laughed. It's their old trick again, the suffering strategy. These two should be choked by an evil spirit to learn their lesson. Otherwise, they'll keep thinking their pure yang and pure yin fates are invincible, neither of them content with their lot. Mistress said from the side, all right, say less. They both know their mistake, and Yao Ruo is still suffering from damaged vital energy. It's not easy." Master stomped his foot in anger, muttered, "Indulgent mothers spoil their sons," and left. Mistress also told me to rest well, then went to make chicken soup for me. Senior sister saw them leave, then plopped onto my bed and handed me the demon sealing mirror. One of Mrs. Shen's soul fragments has been placed in the jade vial by me and taken back by her son. She should be back to normal now. Shen Lin, being righteous, reported his father to the police for intentional homicide. As for Linlin's soul, I've informed Master, and Master has placed the little girl on the temple's incense altar. After 49 days, she will be able to reincarnate. I nodded, then lay back down. I have to say, although Dianmu is timid and cowardly, she is still very reliable. After I recuperated for a while, Shen Lin came to the temple. He carried fine wine and expensive skincare products, making Master and Mistress very happy. After seeing me, he wanted to kneel down without a word. I quickly helped him up. "Don't, if you reduce my lifespan again, I'll hit you." He was helpless and had to thank me verbally. "Just transfer the money, don't talk nonsense. 180,000. He looked at me, an emotion in his eyes that I couldn't understand. Seeing my impatience, I slapped him. "Hurry up, don't you want to pay?" He was stunned by my slap, then mechanically pulled out his phone and transferred the money. Alipay account received 180,000 yuan. I rejoiced. After happily counting the numbers on the balance, I said, "Tell me, what's the truth of this whole matter?" At this moment, Jiang Jiao had emerged from the demon sealing mirror, and Dianmu had also entered the room at some point. The two of us and one ghost began to listen to the story. Basically, as everyone saw, Ling'an village has a very severe preference for sons over daughters. Many infant girls died unjustly in the soul-suppressing well. My sister, Linlin, was also one of them. But she was different in that she was drowned at 8 years old. Initially, after my mother gave birth to her, she couldn't get pregnant again. My father had already given up, but then my mother became pregnant with me. However, my fetal position wasn't good, and my mother couldn't give birth at that time. My father didn't know who he heard it from, but he was told it was because there was already a daughter in the house. So, in the middle of the night, he drowned 8-year-old Linlin in the soul-suppressing well. After that, I was born. Later, my mother searched everywhere for Linlin but couldn't find her, and went mad. I grew up thinking my mother went mad because of that prematurely dead sister. Who knew I'd accidentally eavesdrop? My mother went mad because my father took away one of her soul fragments, and that soul fragment was used by that inhumane man to suppress his own daughter's soul, locking her in the old house, using magical artifacts and demon-binding talismans to make sure she would never reincarnate. Later, I heard that there were powerful Taoist masters who could help purify unjustly dead evil spirits and even recall souls to the body. And coincidentally, there was a charming ghost in the house. So I found an intermediary to send a commission, wanting to see if I could find a trustworthy Taoist priestess to help my sister be guided to liberation. But I was afraid the Taoist priestess wouldn't agree, so I had to pretend I was about to be killed by my sister's ghost, so the Taoist priestess would help. And you know what happened after that? He finished speaking and took a gulp of water. "So you weren't about to be killed by that little water demon at all, you were just pretending?" Jiang Jiao's eyes widened. It was a waste of her efforts to appear and save him, so she was the clown. Shen Lin shrugged, indicating that he was also helpless about Jiang Jiao being tricked. I nodded thoughtfully, then thought of something else. "Where's your household deity?" Logically speaking, an ancient house would definitely have a household deity. He lowered his head and mumbled, "My father suppressed him." Dianmu interjected, "I already released him. He was furious, ate several pounds of my incense and candles before he calmed down. Remember to tell him I said hello." Shen Lin nodded in surprise. I thought he was gone. Jiang Jiao leaned against me, lazily saying, "Indeed, a grand scheme." I expressed my agreement. Who says it wasn't? After Shen Lin finished everything, he visited the Taoist temple for a while, then prepared to leave. I suddenly thought of something and asked him if he wanted to pay respects to the god of literature. "It's very efficacious," he agreed, took 3 incense sticks, and respectfully bowed 3 times towards the god of literature. I stood behind him, took out my phone, secretly took a picture, and then sent it to the class group. You lazy students can learn from this professor. Between going to work and striving for progress, he chose to offer incense. I didn't blur his face. Serves him right? Heh. Shen Lin's phone vibrated wildly. He took it out, glared at me, and gnashed his teeth. "Yao Ryu, quickly take it down." I quickly hid behind Jiang Jiao, smiling at him. "It's too late. can't take it down now. The exam results were about to be released. I used the small 6 ren to divine good or bad fortune. Twice, the point fell on small fortune, once on swift joy. It was going to be fine. When the results came out, indeed, all subjects were just enough to pass. I didn't fail any subjects. Although 60 points isn't beautiful, 60 points long live? I happily waved my phone. My entire summer holiday would be absolutely joyous. Thinking this, I immediately wanted to invite my senior sister to go down the mountain to play. But then I saw Master sitting solemnly in the main hall. "Master," I called out. He looked at me with disappointment and said in a deep voice, "How much did Professor Shen give this time?" My heart sank. What had to come came. I replied, 10,000. Master counted on his fingers. "You're not being sincere. I ask you again, how much was it exactly?" I cried out, 180,000. Woo-woo. Master looked at me for a while. I understood, honestly transferred the money, and gave Master 90,000. Only then did he happily leave the main hall. I pouted. My joy instantly vanished with a tish. Dianmu patted my shoulder. "Everyone's the same." Good, I felt much better inside. My senior sister was beautiful. She used to be in the entertainment industry, so the money she paid certainly wasn't less than mine. She saw through my thoughts and said, "One variety show for me is 200,000, and I used to earn quite a bit more. Although I pay more than you, I also earn even more." Damn it, that made me even angrier. I raised the peachwood sword in my hand, pretending to hit her, and shouted, "Jiang Jiao, quickly turn into your evil spirit form and scare her." Jiang Jiao laughed in response, but didn't move. She looked at Dianmu and Yao Ruo, feeling that life should indeed be like this. Jiang Jiao's epilogue, **. My name is Jiang Jiao. I am a charming ghost, but I don't like men. I only love women. Mainly because when I was alive, I saw through the true nature of men. After avenging my mother, I used a knife to cut my own throat, so I will forever dislike men. I don't know how long I've been dead. My memory always stops at the day I died. I was only 20 years old that year. I vaguely remember that when I was alive, I was a courtesan who sold her art, not her body, in the pleasure quarters. My mother was also a courtesan. She belonged to the lower 9 streams, the lowest stratum of society, the kind of people others looked down upon the most. But I didn't think so. She taught me to read and write, taught me to play music, and cultivate my character. She was the best mother in the world. But on my 18th birthday, she died. She was beaten to death by the subordinates of the main wife of a certain lord, simply because the lord adored my mother, even refusing to go home. But why? Clearly, the lord adored my mother. Clearly, the lord himself wanted to stay with my mother and not leave. Why did she have my mother beaten to death? Clearly, this was a man's fault, and she was also a woman, so why did that lady do such a thing? I didn't understand, couldn't comprehend, but due to my lowly status, I could do nothing but watch my mother die before my eyes. I was unwilling. I secretly made a vow. I must avenge my mother. I heard that the lady greatly enjoyed listening to the zither, so I painstakingly practiced my zither skills. Finally, my efforts paid off. 2 years later, my zither playing reached a superb level of mastery, and it gradually began to spread among the common folk. My music was said to be a melody only heard in heaven, rarely heard on earth. Finally, on the occasion of the lady's grand birthday, I was invited to perform at the mansion. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That day, I entered the mansion and, taking advantage of the crowd, secretly snuck into the lady's courtyard. There, I saw her dismissing everyone and burning joss paper in a corner of the courtyard. "Jiang Ran, I have wronged you. I only wanted the Lord to break off his relationship with you, who knew he would be so cruel as to have you beaten to death. I hope you, in the underworld, do not forgive him." She lowered her eyes, her face filled with sorrow, slowly tossing joss paper into the basin. I stood stunned for a long time before reacting, so the truth of this matter was like this. My mother was beaten to death by that lord's men. I left the lady's courtyard, lost and disoriented, walking along a small path behind the garden and bumped into that lord. He was drunk, mistaking me for a maid in the garden. He squinted at me. "There's such a beautiful maid in this garden. Come serve me, and I'll give you the status of a concubine." As he spoke, he lunged at me. I struggled, crying for help, but it was useless. The servants passing by seemed blind, pretending not to see me. The disparity in strength between men and women was too great. I couldn't do anything to him. I was pushed onto the grass by the lord. He tore off my clothes, then undid his own pants, impatiently wanting to invade. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the hairpin in my hair. I pulled it out, raised it high, and stabbed it straight into his neck. His eyes glazed over. I quickly pulled out the hairpin and blood gushed out. Only then did the blind servants see, and they started running in panic. "Help! Someone is assassinating the Lord! Help! Someone is assassinating the Lord!" I pushed the man lying on top of me away, stood up, calmly adjusted my clothes, and quietly sat beside him, awaiting punishment. "You killed my mother and then tried to rape me. Now you've been stabbed to death by me. This can be considered revenge for my mother. I die content." Very quickly, the lady arrived. She saw me with disheveled hair, yet my clothes were neat and the Lord's pants were half undone. In her heart, she quickly understood what had happened. She closed her eyes. This was undoubtedly a scandal. Killing me was the best way to suppress this scandal. I was ready for death, but she seemed to have other intentions. After a moment, she opened her eyes, composed herself, and said, "The Lord died suddenly of a serious illness. Have all of you heard clearly?" The servants were stunned, turning to look at me. The lady then said sternly, "The Lord is dead, so I am the mistress of this house. Do I need to say it again?" The servants shook their heads and said, "The Lord died suddenly of a serious illness." The lady nodded, instructed them to carry the Lord away, and arrange for his swift burial. I stared blankly at all this. The lady touched my head, gently saying, "You were scared, weren't you? Tie your hair back, go home." I burst into tears, tears of joy at escaping death. This lady was also the best lady. I thought everything had ended like this. But the next day, I heard that the lady was seized by the Lord's mother, who threatened her to hand over the murderer, or she would be sent to the Yamen on charges of harboring a criminal. The lady would rather die than speak. The Lord's mother then intended to torture her. I heard the news and quickly went towards the mansion. Before I even left the alley, I was captured. Those people escorted me to the main hall of that mansion. An old, dignified lady sat on a chair. "You killed my son." I stared at her and said, "Your son tried to assault me in the garden. I refused, and in my resistance, I accidentally killed him." She asked the other servants, "Are her words true, every single one?" The servants timidly dared not speak. The old lady saw this and knew in her heart. She sighed. "This matter is indeed my son's fault first, but you accidentally killed someone, and in the end, you must accept the law and suffer the punishment. If you do not accept punishment, then the lady who sheltered you may be arrested and suffer in your place." I lowered my head and muttered, "Then I will pay with my life for a life." Saying that, I pulled out the dagger I had hidden in my sleeve and stabbed myself hard in the throat. It was swift and precise. My neck was severed right there, and blood splattered, startling the old lady. After avenging my mother, I no longer wanted to live. Coincidentally, this time, it would allow the lady who wanted to let me go not to bear the crime of concealing. It was just a pity. Today seemed to be my birthday. I had originally wanted to eat a bowl of longevity noodles. After I died, my soul did not reincarnate. Because of my resentment, I always lingered in the pleasure quarters. I gradually became a charming ghost, but I don't love men. My memories after that are unclear. Daily life was repetitive until hundreds of years later, I accidentally saw a little Taoist priestess. It was the first time I had seen a Taoist priestess offer food to lonely souls and wild ghosts. On the surface, she seemed cold, but her heart was incredibly kind. I secretly memorized her appearance, thinking that if I met her again, I would definitely cling to her. After that, I grew tired of wandering and wanted to find a home to live in, but most houses had door gods, so I couldn't enter. Finally, I found an old house with no door god. I thought it was an empty house and excitedly flew in, only to find it wasn't. Inside were two people and one ghost. That ghost seemed to be trapped here. It wasn't as weak as other trapped ghosts. On the contrary, it was getting stronger. I kept thinking it wanted to take the male owner's life, so when that water demon appeared at his bedside, I manifested and helped out, considering it payment for rent. As a result, he called a Taoist priestess to catch me. Truly heartless. But when I clearly saw who that Taoist priestess was, I decided to forgive him. It turned out her name was Yao Ruo. I must cling to her. She thought I was an evil spirit and suppressed me with her power. The power of someone with a pure yin fate is indeed very strong. She asked me the cause of my death, and those bad memories began to flood my mind. I almost lost control of myself. Luckily, I quickly calmed down. After mocking her for thinking she was the king of hell, I regretted it. How could I say such harsh words? Clearly, she was also a kind person. Luckily, the little Taoist priestess wasn't angry at all. She even asked if I wanted to be her household ghost. Of course, I was willing. I wanted to follow her. But what happened next was too dangerous. I wanted to come out of the demon's ceiling mirror to shield her from an attack, but she pushed me back into the demon's ceiling mirror. Luckily, her senior sister arrived. She was a Taoist priestess with a pure yang fate, but something seemed a little off. Her senior sister was powerful but afraid of ghosts. Ha ha ha. A Taoist priestess with a pure yin fate, but a kind heart devoted to the Tao, and a Taoist priestess with a pure yang fate but timid and fearful. These two senior and junior sisters are truly interesting. But luckily, everything was resolved, but my little Taoist priestess is truly too kind. She used her pure yin energy to guide all the vengeful spirits, sending them to reincarnation. And the consequence of this was that her vital energy was severely damaged. There was no other way. Her senior sister had to take her back to the Taoist temple to recuperate, not forgetting to bring me along. I thought I wouldn't be accepted. Who knew her master and mistress only looked at me once and said nothing more? Indeed, good people are always surrounded by good people. Finally, everything ended. My little Taoist priestess also recovered her spirits. I watched her and her senior sister playing in the courtyard and couldn't help but sigh. Life should indeed be like this.